Are you talking about the ads we put in last year and that they took out, the governor took out? We're now putting it back in?
Well, it doesn't look like anything's being put back in. I have, from my numbers or our numbers, the 2015, 2016 enacted.
We put $4.5 million back in. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Denny?
We put in $4.5 million money. The governor took out, how much did he take out? What did he take out?
Right.
Yeah. All of it. Yeah, he took 11 million out, and we put back 4 million.
Yeah, he took 11 million out. We put 4 million back in. Where did we end up? It looks like we ended up where, at 31?
He's looking at the same thing.
Where did we end up? Right. Yeah. 31. Yeah. So it's significant.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, last year. Ooh.
Yeah, I guess my question there, Denny, is if we're 31 last year and the Assembly One House is 14.
Year, and the governor did 19, and we're now doing 23 to it. We're making it 23, total of 23. We restored to 23.
How do you get to a restore of 23? I mean, it says 14 million for local ag, 5 million less than the governor.
Are you looking from the book, or from your book, or is it from our book?
Well, I'm looking at this book, which comes out of this book.
Yeah.
So what are you showing for ag?
I'm looking at that same page. That's what I want to see. Because what I'm looking at is it has everything here. What it does is and when you get down to the bottom, said in 15, 16 it was 30. The governor wants to make it 19.
Yep.
The change was 10. The Assembly added 3.44, so we have 23. That's the number.
So that's somewhat similar to the numbers I have, but not the same at all. I have an Assembly One House proposal of 14. If the governor this year, I think, is proposing what, 19.8, or is he proposing?
Yes, 19.8.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if he's proposing 19.8, we're proposing 14. That's 5.8.
No.
I'm not sure
we only increased 3.3.
What numbers are you counting to get there, Denny?
Okay. Here's another reason. The Assembly moved child care to Office of Children and Family Services and restored funding of $9.3 million, an increase of $1 million above the executive's proposal. So we took that away from here, and so that's another increase.
Right,
so
but it's still, you moved, what, 8 million or so?
So it's 23.
But I guess my point being is you moved 8 million or so in migrant child care over somewhere else, but it's not going to my ag sector, and that's problematic for many of us that represent.
It's migrant child care.
Right.
Yes.
So I guess what I would get to here, Denny, is last year we were at 31 million.
Yeah.
This year, your best case scenario, even including the 8 million that has been moved, is somewhere in the 22 to 23 million range, right?
Yeah.
We're still significantly low. That's the only point I want to make there. We're going from 22, 23. That's what the proposal is now, including the 8 million, which I wouldn't necessarily include as agriculture aid since it's been moved. But I think the bottom line is we're still about $10 million short for our agriculture sector. I just want to bring that up, given that it is such a gigantic part of the New York economy, if not the biggest part.
We should be doing that, but I just want to make sure.
Okay.
No, let me answer too. I put the 9 to the 23, and I guess the 9 is in the 23. Yeah, right. So, no, it's still 23. I tried to raise it, but it's still...
Well, there's still time. We can get that other 10 million maybe.
But we agree with you. And I think the governor does too.
So,
because every day I watch a commercial in New York talking about upstate. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, the commercials aren't always completely accurate, but many of us represent heavy farming areas up here in upstate New York, and right now I can tell you they're hurting pretty badly. I was talking to a farmer the other day. He's losing about $8,000 a week right now, and they can only sustain that for so long. But anyway, I appreciate your time on that one, Denny. A couple of other points. The Regional Economic Development Councils, the REDCs, $150 million is eliminated in this budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's the total amount proposed by the governor, and that would have supported a sixth round of funding. I guess my question may be a little rhetorical, is why eliminate them if this governor continues to brag about what a success they are? Is this not an acknowledgement maybe that they are an utter failure if we're going to wipe them out completely?
No, I would say nothing's utter. I would prefer to say that there's a lot of things that he's been doing, and that I joke, but it's not a joke. I know the things that's going on about the programs he's put together. I don't know anybody up there that's paying taxes. That we've done a lot of things in a long time to make sure that we make this one state of people doing well in both areas. So I know the governor is working very hard to do that. And we each have our own way of watching how we do it, but we are working also to help those farmers.
So, well, where'd the $150 million go then if the proposal is to completely eliminate the REDCs?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not an utter failure, they're pretty darn close, because nobody can seem to give us a definitive answer on how many jobs have actually been created.
Yeah, we took a lot of that money that the governor took, and we put it into education, because the number one thing is, if we can educate those children, we'll do better, and everyone else will do better.
Okay. All right. Signature proposal for the governor. So I don't know how, signature project and policy for the governor. So we'll see how he reacts to that. Economic development initiatives and marketing of New York, $13.5 million is provided. That's $53 million less than the governor. Noteworthy that this funding will support tourism promotion services. All reference to Open for Business, Global New York, and Startup New York advertising has been removed. Again, another of the governor's signature programs that we seem to be willing to completely wipe out. Is that, again, any acknowledgement that Startup New York and Open for Business have not delivered as promised? Sorry for the rhetorical question, Denny.
Well, I kept talking about the TV I watch. We decided there's a lot of money going around now that we still would continue to have the programs we have, but it'll be paid for in other ways where there's money available to do it.
Okay. Early intervention program reform, Denny, that's a vital program to all of us, and certainly to all of our educators and parents out there. This plan rejects the governor's plan to alter the eligibility process for children with suspected developmental delays, and reforms health insurance reimbursement for covered early intervention services. And then I've got in parentheses, eliminates $5 million additional appropriation provided. Truthfully, when I read that, it's a little confusing. Could you guys give me just a little enlightenment? Are we enhancing that, or are we cutting that? Because what I just read is admittedly kind of confusing.
$5 million. We're adding $5 million.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Then I figured that's what it said, but didn't read quite clearly there. Couple other small points. One of them not so small, actually. On the minimum wage, there have been no modeling studies. There have been no studies at all as to what this impact is going to be, other than actually, wow, from on high, I guess. Actually, the Umpire Center, there have been many people that have talked about the $15 impact and the potential job loss of up to 200,000 jobs. But I would get at, in this budget, is there any money at all anywhere in this budget to fund this minimum wage increase that needs to cover those folks that are working in our schools that might be, I see the ads in the paper, 11, 12 bucks an hour for a teacher's aide, our special needs folks that are working. Is there any money at all covering any of this for any of our municipalities, our schools, anything?
It's $200 million we put in there to deal with that for home care workers, nursing home, hospital workers, social service agencies.
Right.
We put in there $200 million. We feel that that would be sufficient for the time being. And the school aid also. So what we did is we planned this for next year, but it won't go up. It won't be a big lump all at once at the same time.
Okay.
Because you're going to bring the bottom up.
Okay, so that's on the, okay, Denny, on the public sector side. I just think that we are rushing this. I mean, this $15 is just sort of a shot in the dark, and $13 a year ago was a non-starter for New York City, but suddenly a year later, $15 seems to make all the sense in the world statewide. I'm not sure how we arrived at that other than it was just sort of maybe political expediency for the second floor. But so there have been no modeling studies. There has been no real study of this at all. It's just a policy that's being pushed.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're working on things because you got to put it together. But this is the beginning, and it doesn't begin tomorrow.
Well,
it will flow in.
Yeah, it ramps up.
But years, it's I think 5 years to get there.
We all know we've had already a significant increase in minimum wage that barely got enacted. So it's not, this one might just be beginning, but the other one hasn't even taken full effect yet. And here we go again with more. I would just make the point, as many of us have, that this is going to be a crushing blow to a lot of industries, a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses and municipalities, because I do not think the $200 million will fully fund this thing. Lastly, Denny.
No, that's only for the first year.
Right, I know.
Next year we'll give more.
Okay. Lastly, because I know we want to move along here, SAFE Act funding. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the SAFE Act at least once a year. SAFE Act funding is maintained in this budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's $12.5 million reappropriation and $3 million into the state police, so about $15.5 million. Does that sound right?
See, the executive budget contained $3.2 million for the implementation of the New York SAFE Act. This funding level is flat from last year's enacted budget and supports 39 staff. There are no new capital appropriations in the proposed budget.
So that would be the 39 bodies you're talking about. That's on the state police side of things. That's what, the $3 million, $3.2 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was quick.
You got a second one.
Thank you, Denny. There's no way that was 15, Jeff.
You get a second one.
Thank you, Denny. I appreciate it. My only other point to you would be the $12.5 million. Is it just a reappropriation, or is there any new money at all for the SAFE Act?
What $12.5 million?
Well, I've got 12.5 in reapprop. You're saying it's just 3.5, or is the 12.5?
It's 20.7. The reappropriation is 20.7 million.
All right, I'll pick up on it some other time. Thank you, Denny. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would this sponsor yield, Chairman yield, please?
I'm sorry.
Would Chairman continue to yield?
I'm sorry. Start again.
Mr. Farrell, will you yield?
Yes,
Mr. Farrell yields, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
Mr.
just want to
Lopez.
focus on the minimum wage piece, and again, I understand it's a major plank of the governor. I know this, the majority has embraced it here, but I do want to hit some questions that really get to the core of this issue, and if I may. So I'm going to go back to the issue of direct and indirect impacts. Do we have a sense? Do your staff have a sense of the direct financial impacts and indirect impacts, the cost to the state and to businesses and others?
that 200 million was this year starting, and that's there to deal with the impact.
Okay.
And we'll be putting in additional money as we move ahead. Again, going back to the fact that the way it will come in, it won't be everybody getting $15. It'll go up. There are people making 13 and 14. They won't be affected until 5 years out, whereas the people who are 9 and 10, they'll be the first year out. So it's not as large a group of people.
No, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to dissect this a little bit. So we have two groups, in my mind, that are singularly impacted. We have for-profit sector, and then we have the not-for-profit and governmental sector.
Right.
All right, so maybe three groups. I'll keep governmental in a separate group. But let's pick not-for-profit, for example. We'll start there. Because we've heard, and I'm sure you have, from ARCs and others who say that we can't do this. We're excited about a minimum wage. However, we can't afford it. And I've been told in meetings with ARCs from my region and their association that ARCs and their sister agencies are looking at about a $1.2 to $1.7 billion hit over the rollout of the minimum wage. So you're
And
200
that's going out to 2022.
for the rollout. So the 200 million that you're describing, which is year one. So in this case, we're talking about a dedicated state payment to not-for-profits to maintain their basic service and pay minimum wage without losing service, without losing employees. So
Yes.
you build that out. So we're going to put 200 million in year one, and we're going to escalate so that just for the not-for-profit, just for the ARCs and related industries, we're going to be looking at 1.7 billion, roughly, 1.2 to 1.7 billion in the rollout. So I guess my first question is, so is the state prepared to do that just for this this sector of the economy? Are you prepared to pay, state pay, up to over $1 billion over the rollout just for ARCs and related agencies? 200 million only is the tip of the iceberg.
No, see, we don't believe that unless you're going to 2023 and look forward and say,
We're looking at the rollout, yeah, the
this
complete
is how much
rollout.
it was.
Right.
We are going to be doing it slowly. So as I said, we put out
Right.
200 million for human services.
So I would maintain
Yeah,
that the
but
200
that would help those people who start in the beginning.
Right.
And as we go out, the wage is projected to total 1.3 billion in additional state share expenditures later. We think
Sure.
it's going to affect us,
So-
the state, by 1.3.
So, Chairman, if you can hang with me for a bit, we got a little more to do, but if you can hang with me. So that 200 million, I'm estimating, it's been advised by ARCs, their state association, and affiliate agencies. That 200 million is just a placeholder just for them. That doesn't get us to government yet, schools and county governments and villages and
No.
cities or little municipal corporations. It doesn't get us to that. So 200 million, based on what I'm hearing, is just a placeholder that we will have to build on and maintain because, and this was profound, I need you to hear this. The ARC said to me, all you're going to do is you're going to raise our floor. Our floor will now become our ceiling. Minimum wage will become the maximum amount that we can pay without having additional state assistance and investment. I think that's a pretty profound observation. It hit me when they said this to me the other day. So my sense is 200 million just as the ante for the not-for-profits. Can you see that? Do you see that at all?
No, I don't accept your numbers to begin with. And I could say the reason we have those numbers, the reason why we have a chart and it says at $9 an hour was because if we didn't do that, the people who run the businesses that we all love would be paying still $1 an hour. We have to make the decision what we think can function because we don't want to create a market crash or anything else. We want to accomplish something, but we want to make sure people are getting a fair share. And that fair share, we think, can be accomplished in the way we do it.
I understand.
And the numbers you give me, and I've heard before.
So this is,
well,
I
you
would
can
just
tell
ask
me-
your
you
staff,
can tell
Chairman,
me
Mr.
you
Speaker.
said it when you talk to me
You will-
next year.
You asked the gentleman a question.
No, I
He's
understand.
answering your question.
I'm
So
sorry.
No, and you're, again, you're very gracious, and for everyone's sake, I'm trying to move it so I can get my questions out and spare you time and spare me time. So I would ask your staff to go back, have earnest conversation with the ARCs and others, and see if that number that I'm describing holds, because that's what they're telling me.
Yes,
And they
we'll-
have no
we'll
reason to
look
tell
at the
me
number.
anything other than what they believe, and I think we should take a hard look. I'm going to move to the next sector. So now we have government sector, which includes schools, which includes local governments, towns, villages, cities. So they are at a 2% cap, which we know is not a 2% cap. For some communities, it's 0.116 or 0.12. So we're now asking them to increase. But yet they can't even meet unfunded mandates, other than this unfunded mandate, without piercing the cap. Well, what's our answer to towns, villages, cities, counties, schools? What's our answer to them? And don't tell me it's just 200 million, because that's not going to
No,
float.
we'll look at that and see what it is, and if it is bad as you say, because you're saying everybody there, including the teachers, are getting $90 an hour. I don't believe that. You know, when we talk about this, I hope not everybody in this world is only making $9, and we're the rich ones. I think we're making 10,
Yeah.
but you know, whatever it is. So I'm not ready to accept what you're saying
Sure.
as a basis.
I'll just pick a perfect little example. I run a little community pool program. I've done it for 32 years.
Yeah.
They work at above minimum wage.
Yeah.
All right, there's maybe 10, 15 kids. They're teaching swimming. They're doing maintenance. For the last 4 years, that program, which is 3 towns and 2 villages, has had a 0 budget increase. All right, what's going to happen there is, and we're still getting through the last round of minimum wage. Their budget is static. The budget's not meaningfully increasing. The towns are just deciding whether they keep the program. Again, I taught swimming there. I've been with this program for over 30 some odd years. That program is going to face loss of service or cutting back hours because the town and villages will not have the money to replace and meet the minimum wage. That's just a tiny little example. I live it. I know it. I know the budget. I've done it since I was 21. I'm 55 now, and I've done their budget. They've had no increase. The 0.12 cap, I'm surprised we still have their $40,000 budget in place. I'm surprised they didn't just gut us and say, we're going to have to give you up. So that's government. I'm going to move now to private sector quickly, if I may. So on the private sector piece, farmers are now making less money than the cost of production. So we've seen it in cycles. In 2006, in this chamber, God bless us, in 2007, chamber gave an emergency bailout for dairy farmers because the prices had plummeted. We're now back in that cycle because there is no price support for dairy farmers. Dairy farmers are at their, they can't make money. They're losing money with every hundredweight of milk produced. All right? We're now going to put more cost on them. We're going to put cost on small business. And the premise is, to some extent, I think all of us realize the market can absorb certain costs. So if you ask a farmer, what is it about their business that's significant? 1, the price of their product, and 2, the cost of inputs. That includes labor. So the price has plummeted. Cost of inputs have been holding steady, got a little by with the energy maybe because of reduced energy costs, but now we're looking at spiking labor costs, and energy is going to catch up with us. We've had a temporary windfall. But the question is, how do we answer the question of small business and farms? Where's the money going to come from for them if their profit margin is negative to stay in business? Where are they going to get the money to pay that wage, minimum wage, and stay in business, let alone be viable over time? How do we do that?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that because I'm hearing what you think, and you're asking me to answer, are you right? And I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
So
Well-
you have to, I don't believe what you're saying is I won't say true.
Okay.
I'm not using that word, but
Yeah.
your numbers work for you.
So I'll give you
numbers work for me.
I'll give you a couple numbers, and your staff can go back and research. So just confirm with one of my colleagues, the average price is about $16.10 a hundredweight. Okay,
Say that again.
so for milk production. So you can use these numbers, go back with your staff, and let me know if we're right. We'll be back here again, I'm sure. So as we look at that, my understanding is that the cost of profitability hit somewhere between $1,700 and $1,800 a hundredweight. So you take the nexus, profitability is at this point, income has dropped below profitability. So I'm just highlighting for you, and you can check the numbers. But my question for you is if you even abide by my observation, if they are in a negative cash flow, how do they afford minimum wage? That's just my question. If you subscribe to what I just, what do they do?
More money. See, the farmers have a lot of problems. And the problems were there before we thought of this idea.
Yep.
So those numbers create problems. We have to work to help them, and we are putting in our bills. We're doing some work to help the farmers, and we'll have to find ways to help them when we raise these numbers up.
So
because we don't, let me finish this. We're not here to get rid of them. We want them to stay.
I understand.
We want them to prosper.
Sure.
And we're going to work to help them do that. And I can't answer questions to things that can change tomorrow.
No, I understand. And you've been gracious. I'm just highlighting these for you to contemplate because we're not done here yet. This is just the warm-up act. This is our warm-up act. This is a dress rehearsal for the budget. So we have time to go back, chew on these things, come back, and maybe do things that are better and more favorable. So that's why I lay this out.
Well, that's for the table, not here.
Understood, but I need you to have this in your head because if we get to the table and it's not in your head, we're not going anywhere anyway.
They don't allow me on the table.
And we know that at the table, when we sit there, the real work's done behind the scenes. When we sit at the table, we're just making announcements. We know that. You know that. I've been here 10 years. I get that. Yeah. Okay? I don't want to say it's a show, but it's a report. There's not a lot done at the table. It's all done behind closed doors, and we know that.
No, the tables work very well.
So just to move forward, if I can. So in the budget or in the minimum wage, many of the proponents are suggesting there are going to be savings, significant savings by raising minimum wage. Where will those savings go? What are we going to do with those savings?
Where did you see that?
Oh, I have it in a lot of literature.
Is it in anything we wrote?
No, it's coming from proponents. But the proponents are suggesting that, for any number of groups, that understandably we raise minimum wage, fewer people will need support payments and welfare benefits.
No, what you do if you, I told that Henry Ford number, the reason he did it and raised it was because he wanted them to buy cars. And you know what? They did, as he raised their pay. So they're probably working on the theory that if you give these people more money, they will spend it. They're not going to put it in the bank. They're not going to put it away. They're going to take it and buy things for their family and for themselves, and that will go to the stores in that community because they're not going to fly to Paris to buy new dresses.
So I'll cite a source. So I have a flyer here from raisethewageny.org. All right, and this is I don't know, I'm not sure who's part of this, but we have many like this.
Well, I can't defend anybody but the people in back of me.
Yeah, we have many like this. And again, the argument is, here's the argument. Low-wage workers making less than $15 an hour receive public assistance benefits that total $9.1 billion annually, with the cost in New York State and local governments nearly one-third. So they're highlighting it's about $9.1 billion that we spend. The number, we take it or leave it. Yeah. But the premise is you raise minimum wage and support payments go down. So if that premise is accepted, where will that savings go? Do we accept the premise that if we raise the minimum wage, that support payments will go down?
No,
I 15 minutes already? Oh, I feel like Steve McLaughlin. I feel like another member. I shouldn't say that.
No, what I feel is if you raise their money, they will spend it. They're not putting it in the bank.
So
they're going to spend it.
Chairman, I'm going to leave
Mr. Lopez, the old TV show Beat the Clock just happened.
Darn it. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Barron.